everyone would just be hyped up and want to invite their friends, and then they'd start talking about it at school, and then they'd just keep coming to our youth group, and then they'd invite their friends, and it just kind of became exponential. Every year, not only do students come to know Jesus, but they keep coming and join a small group, and now we're in a discipleship environment, you know, and so it works. Let's build a team. Let's get camaraderie. Let's get cohesiveness. Let's build on leadership. And I knew I can't do anything until that team is healthy. Any healthy ministry is going to be built on healthy leadership, and I cannot do it alone. I need a healthy leadership team. When I first started youth ministry, my youth group was 11 students. Now it's about 150. How did I do it? It might not be what you think.
Welcome to the Ministry Coach Podcast, where we are your guides in the crazy and yet rewarding world of youth ministry. My name is Jeff Lascola, and this is
Kristen Lascola. Wow, that was a new intro. I was not prepared.
Every now and then I like to change it up.
I wasn't prepared. Your guides through the interesting world. That was good. That was changing it up.
Yeah.
Caught me off guard. Maybe the listeners are also
You're like,
caught
what?
off guard.
What is this nonsense?
No, you're listening to the correct podcast.
Where we give you tips and tactics to help you fast track the growth and health of your youth ministry.
My name is Jeff Lascola, and this is
Doofus Von Dum Dum. And today we're talking about how you grew your youth ministry by 1,200%.
Is that the math?
It is the math.
Woo! 1,200%. It only took me 1,200 years.
Not quite.
Yes, today we're going to talk about how I grew my youth group from
11
to
150.
about 150. Okay.
You act like you don't know, but I do know.
I didn't know if you wanted me to say the actual number, so I was hesitating.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, 11 to 150.
Then it makes the math add up that it's over 1,200%. So.
Wow. When you say it like that, that's quite an accomplishment. But yeah, it felt like it took 1,200 years, that's for sure. So I'm going to give you a little behind the curtain of how I did it, the journey of my leadership and my ministry and all of that. And let me tell you, it wasn't easy and it wasn't quick. It took a lot of time and blood, sweat, tears, Holy Spirit, prayer, questioning my life choices, but we're going to help you expedite this process. You know, you don't have to pay the painful dumb taxes that I paid, you know, and when we started this podcast, Jeff kind of put it this way. He said, be what you wish you had 20 years ago. And so that's what I'm going to help you do today. If you're looking to grow your youth ministry, I'm going to give you my real life journey so that you can see where yours fits in to mine. So number one, when I first started, I realized I needed to focus on one area of health at a time. So I think sometimes youth pastors get a bit overwhelmed because they look at the project in front of them and they're like, this is a mess. That's a mess. This needs attention. This needs to be changed. What's going on here? And it can just feel like, where do I even start? Yeah. Well, I prioritized, I think without even really knowing I was prioritizing, what I saw as nothing else can happen until this gets fixed. And I would take as long as that needed. Then nothing else can happen until this gets fixed. And I would take as long as that needed. So just to give you some examples in order of importance, my number one focus when I first took over our first offsite campus at our church was my leadership team. My adult volunteer leadership team was priority number one of figuring out them. What do they need? Who are they? Let's build a team. Let's get camaraderie. Let's get cohesiveness. Let's build on leadership. And I knew I can't do anything until that team is healthy. I remember my very first act of junior high pastor at our campus was we went to a Mexican restaurant and I invited all the leaders and I just sat down and I'm like, I just got to get to know you guys. And then I started to build relationships with them. And then I hoped to build relationships with them, with each other, and just start to develop leadership skills in them, train them on things, disciple them, do life with them, because I just knew any healthy ministry is going to be built on healthy leadership. And I cannot do it alone. I need a healthy leadership team. So that was priority number one, just putting so much time, attention, and resources to the people who are going to be leading this with me. Now, when I showed up, I had probably 5 or 6 leaders that were already there. You might be at ground zero and have no leaders. And so obviously you would have to start like, all right, let's go recruit. Let's build relationships. Let's start inviting people to check out ministry. So your volunteer leadership team is always priority number one if you're going to grow your youth ministry. Then I started to move on to things like, okay, what's my program like? We didn't have worship. So I'm like, all right, I think worship is an essential part of a youth ministry program. So I spent all my time trying to figure that out. Is there someone who has musical talent, who's willing to lead worship, who I can buy them dinner once a month, say, hey, could you please, if you're on a shoestring budget. Then I started looking at all the elements of our program. What is our teaching like? What do the kids need to hear? And is my teaching up to par? Small groups, are small groups healthy? Games, are we playing fun, relevant, engaging games? What's the environment like? I remember it was a long time ago, so I started like printing out pictures of all the kids and posting them on these boards and trying to create any little fun environmental element that I could, and like bringing in our speaker because we had no system. So I wanted music when they came in, and man, I'll go to Little Caesars and grab pizza so the kids can have pizza when they come into youth group. That's when I started the Would You Rather board, for them to write a fun question. And I just started to look around at the environment and say, is this a magnetic environment for the age group I'm trying to meet? Because we were just meeting at a community center. Yeah. So it was like this random classroom that says, eat your fruits and vegetables, Not
even like the gymnasium community center. It was
like little classroom. Yeah. And it literally had like posters about like how to eat healthy and brush your teeth and hygiene and stuff like that. And so I just was like,
all very important things.
Very important. Not saying it's not, but it just didn't scream youth ministry,
right.
And then buying games and having those out and
everything needed to be portable. Bring it
everything.
In, take it with you.
I used to have a bin in my car all the time that had every flyer and every speaker and game and whatever. And I'd have to load up the bin and unload the bin. And then I started getting curtains so that I could cover up some of the like classroom elements. Yeah. So I'd have these poles and I'd be setting up curtains. Well, then I wanted to upgrade my curtains with our logo. So then I upgraded that to a vinyl banner, and I just always was looking at like, how can I make this, like teenagers do care about their environment. They want it to feel like this is a place that was created for me. So that's what I did. I started to go through everything with a fine tooth comb. Like, what's our worship like? What's our program like? What are our games like? What's the small group vibe like? All those programs that make up a Tuesday or Wednesday night, whatever night you meet on. And I just would hone in on one area and I would try to fix it up, make it good, make it thriving, make it healthy. Then I move on to the next one. And like I said, that could take a while. It wasn't like this week worship, next week games. Like, right. Worship is a season. And then figuring out my game system is a season. Figuring out, all these things take time. So that was program. And then I started.
I was the first worship leader you had. You never bought me dinner.
Ugh, I married you. Isn't that enough?
Okay, fine.
Maybe it was someone else I bought dinner for.
It wasn't me.
You know who you are. Then I started looking at like our organizational systems. So that would be like communication with parents and leaders in the church at large about what's going on in the youth ministry. Keeping attendance even became like a system that I needed to sort of figure out. Okay, am I really keeping track of who's coming and who's not and where's this kid? And, so then I started looking at systems. So it was leaders, program, organizational structures and systems. And then I started looking at our events and our camps. once I felt like, okay, we have a good Tuesday night thing going, it has all the elements, like I bet we could expand and start doing some cool events. And what does our group want to do? What works good for our size and our resources, and getting some events on the calendar and making sure those are really well run. And then figuring out what works for us for camp. Some youth ministries, it takes them years to find their camp. Like they try little different trips and things, and it was like, it was okay. But what you're looking for is that camp that everyone comes back and was like, that's amazing.
Right.
Can't wait to go back.
And be affordable.
Yeah, I know. Getting all those things like super cool, super affordable, a great experience for everyone, like checking all those boxes could take years.
Because you only get one a year to try it out.
Exactly.
And that didn't work. So now let's wait a whole 3 years.
So give yourself time. Get the camp. Get like, I do a summer camp and a winter camp, and it took me years to figure out like, this is fun, but what about this? Or, ooh, that was cool, but that was really expensive. Or, oh, I liked this, but it was too crowded or too far, too whatever. So anyways, that was kind of an element that I needed to check off. And then I would start to look at my student leadership team. That is a huge pillar, in my opinion, of youth ministry, of like, do we have students who are pulled to the center that they're creating the culture for other students? Because leaders create a certain culture, but we also need students to create a certain culture for their peers. And I don't think I could run healthy youth ministry without a student leadership team. It's that important. So I had to really figure out, okay, we have one, but why is it only girls that sign up? Okay, we need some more guys. Or are we selling this in the correct way that gets students excited? Or do they feel like it's a burden, a chore, just another commitment? So I had a student leadership team, but like I wasn't getting the signups that I was hoping for. We did an episode on that recently. Jeff will link that below, won't you, Jeff?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, you're so
You can give
sweet.
me dinner.
No, that ship has sailed. I made you dinner tonight.
That's true.
Homemade.
That is true. It was very good.
Pizza bread. It was good. It was better than it sounds, just so you know. And then I started, this honestly was a huge growth engine for us. And we've talked about it before, The Battle. The Battle is a competition series we do every fall where the students get on teams and they compete for 4 weeks we send our students to Six Flags Magic Mountain. Whatever theme park is nearest to you will also work, or if you don't have the budget, you could do like a trampoline park or a water park. We used to do that too when my budget was smaller. So that was a great outreach. And those kids really did stick around. It was this thing where everyone would just be hyped up and want to invite their friends. And then they'd start talking about it at school. And then they'd just keep coming to our youth group, and then they'd invite their friends. And it just kind of became exponential. Like you invited him and he invited her and she invited them. And, it just like, over the years, I mean, I can point to so many students like, you didn't start coming until The Battle, and now you're a part of our ministry, and now your family comes. Like, it really does work. So we had to put a lot of time and money into it. But to be honest, I saved my budget almost for the whole year so I can pull that off, because I give them a free trip to Magic Mountain. And the more we grow, the more tickets that is, and a bus and all of that. So, but it's worth it. Like, every year, not only do students come to know Jesus, but they keep coming and join a small group, and now we're in a discipleship environment, and so it works. And until it doesn't work, I'm going to keep doing it until it doesn't work. So that was a huge growth engine for us. Even though we only did it once a year, those kids, they come in October and they stick around for the rest of the year. It's amazing. And then back to environment. Environment again, I would re-look at this stuff all the time. And in fact, every year I kind of look at my budget and see what's left. And I think before the fiscal year is over, I'm like, man, what else could I do in this room to make it scream, we are here for the junior hires, and that's really the question you want to be asking yourself is, does this space scream junior hires welcome here? Junior hires plan to be here, not like, okay, guys, like don't touch anything because like this isn't our room. And so we got to be careful. It's like, no, like create a space that screams, we were expecting you and we're
Not
happy
like
you're
all
here.
creepy like that though, but
Was that creepy?
we were expecting, waggling your fingers.
I didn't say it like that. Sheesh. So those were the areas that, like I said, I was kind of prioritizing, and it took years to kind of perfect those. Like, this isn't just a weekly checklist, but these are really big areas of ministry that you're going to need to get right and get healthy and have the long view in mind that. And then you kind of come back to stuff. It's like, cool, worship was doing well, but okay, what's happening? We lost our worship leader. How can we prevent this in the future? Well, man, we should probably have people waiting in the wings as the worship leader, developing students who can eventually take over that role. Because in youth ministry, keep in mind, you're always going to need to replace yourself, hopefully not yourself too soon. You're going to need more small group leaders than you need. People waiting in the wings, because all of a sudden it's like, oh, 2 people left for college. Well, now the 8th graders don't have a small group leader. Right. It's like, whoa, always be planning. Well, I could move this person here. Always have worship people being developed. Always have leaders and interns being developed. Like, the name of the game is always development. Develop people all the time, always, in every circumstance. And you will have a steady flow of people who can continue this kingdom work. It's like an all hands on deck thing, but if they're not invited to the party, they might miss it. So you're always bringing people in, teaching them, training them, developing them, discipling them, mentoring them, coaching them. It's like all about people. And that's what keeps the ministry going and healthy and happening and thriving, and people wanting to be a part of that. So once you have all these systems kind of up and running, one thing I try to really do is seek a consistent standard of excellence in everything. So once things are running, you need to look at them, say, is this reaching its maximum potential? Like, excellence in everything you do really does breed growth. Yeah. So it's not like when I was small, I think like the temptation was to think, we're small, so excellence doesn't matter. People won't care. It will be forgivable. They're just junior hires. But as long as you keep thinking like that, like, people will believe that. Yeah. So like, whatever picture you're painting of your ministry, that's the picture people will believe. So what I did is, I remember saying to the church, like, hey, my youth ministry needs security. And it was kind of like, well, I don't know if they do or not. And it's like, no, my ministry is important enough that we need security. We need a safety team. Well, I don't know if we have the people to give to that size of ministry right now. And then I said, well, then I will figure it out. Yeah. All right. Are you a cop? Are you off duty?
Do you know martial arts or any kind of battling sort of strategies?
We'll take it. Like, just trying to recruit people on my own and kind of train them up and say, could you just watch the perimeter of our building while we're in youth group? Because I can't see what's going on outside. I need someone who can. Or can you help direct traffic and make parents see that there's people here like that
capable adults?
Yeah. And I don't know like the age demographic of your volunteer team, but like having some people who look older than 18 outside, just to say, hey, this is a safe place. Like, we took our kid to VBS this summer, and it was great. Right when you pull in the parking lot, there was these people wearing yellow vests, and they had walkie-talkies, and they were, I don't know if they were gonna fight anyone necessarily, but they at least knew who was coming in and out.
Right. Kind of patrolling.
Yeah. Like, they could see, this person clearly shouldn't be here. They kind of wandered in. Right. Let's talk to them and say, hey, can we help you? Just so that there's nothing weird going on. And that's a great thing that I was like, I want that standard of excellence, that everything we do is safe and everything we do has your children in mind, that we're going to do our best to make sure this is a really great place to be. So maybe you feel like, our ministry is so small, we don't need an online presence. Well, I would say, yes, you do. Like if you're going to need one when you have 100 kids, you need one when you have 15 kids. So I just think not selling your ministry short because it's small, but treating it, and we've talked about this before on the podcast, but I really believe treating it as if it like deserves the same excellence as if it were a ministry of 100, 200, 300, whatever. So if you would do it for that, then do it for this, you know? And I just think we can get in that odd mindset of like, well, if it's small, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're almost kind of going the other way around where you're saying if and when we grow, we'll need volunteers. So instead of let's try and grow, then get volunteers, let's get volunteers so that when we grow, it's healthy growth.
Yeah.
And everything is that way. It's like let's make the path healthy, and then the growth we'll be able to accommodate it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Instead of always kind of playing catch up. That's happened. I mean, growth you always think is a good thing, but we talked to a pastor a few months back whose youth ministry exploded. He wasn't the pastor, I think, when it really took off. He kind of took over this and was telling us how unhealthy it was, where it was at the point where like the students were running it and not in a good way.
Yeah.
And just kind of going through and talking about he's like, what can I do? And it's like, you kind of almost need to tear it down and build it back up because it's all backwards. When that growth happens, but you don't have the systems in place and the people in place to withstand it.
Right.
Like he was kept playing catch up and was not winning that game at all.
Right. Yeah. And I think that is probably a pretty common scenario. I remember starting to see that happen when we started to really grow and me thinking, I've got to build some infrastructure here so that the growth I'm seeing, if this continues, we're going to need some systems in place that can support it. More protocol and more help and more, like a pickup system, a safety system, a small group system, like, these doors are locked at this time, kind of like what we talked about last week, just some more organizational structure to it. Another way that I grew, and this was never a huge problem for me and my context necessarily, but I see it all the time, is splitting age groups that have no business being together. So I think whether you're putting elementary and junior high together or junior high and high school together, both, like a lot of times we talk about no junior high and high school together, but I know there are some churches out there that do elementary and junior high together, and that will be a growth killer. Absolutely. Going back to what we just talked about, because I think this is what Kristen thinks. You can think differently. I think it's impossible to have your highest level of excellence with those grades together because somebody's going to be compromising somewhere.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to have to put up with something somewhere. Like my 8th graders are already annoyed with the 6th graders. Like that's 2 years apart.
Right.
They're compromising a little bit in that sense. But I feel like you will lose excellence because there is no way you can serve both elementary and junior high at the same time at their highest potential.
Right.
You can, like the Bible, you can just teach it to everyone, but you're not going to hone in on the needs of that particular age group where, and even where they're at developmentally. And I would say too, like, it's almost like for protection for the younger kids as well. It's not just like, oh, these little kids, they're not cool, so I don't want them here. It's not even so much that, like, thinking about it in the reverse way, it's like to protect these kids, they should not be mixed in with junior hires, and to protect junior hires, they shouldn't be mixed in with high schoolers. So maybe that would help motivate you if it's just like, because I always think like, oh, high schoolers aren't going to invite their friends if they show up and there's an 11-year-old there. But also think of the protection for that kid. Like it hit me so hard when our oldest daughter was like 8 or 9, and she wanted to come to our beach day with us. And I had been giving some junior hires a ride. So she was in the car and they were in the car, and I didn't think anything of it until I heard the things they were talking about, and I couldn't
age appropriate
for them.
For them.
And I couldn't stay. You guys be quiet.
Right.
That's so inappropriate. It wasn't like that level, but it was just so junior high that I was like cringing and like, oh, like I don't really. And it's like, well, you could argue, well, they have siblings that age, you know, whatever. They're going to be exposed to it at some point, but I just kind of felt this responsibility of like, I don't know if I should be like having this group of junior high boys and then my 9-year-old daughter and her hearing their conversations. And again, was it bad enough for me to shut it down? No, it was just how junior hires think and talk and whatever, that an elementary age kid, it's like, these aren't, you're not compatible.
Right.
So I think that's a huge one. Keeping those age groups split by all means necessary.
Yeah.
I think it's really hard for churches because they just are like, well, we don't have enough people. Like, can you raise up a volunteer team? Can you find a killer volunteer who can kind of be the point person for some of this? I don't know. Like, where there's a will, there's a way. I just feel like you've got to figure out how to split these age groups if you're looking to grow,
Right.
you know, and if you're looking for healthy growth as well.
Yeah, there's a high school nearby us there is a high school. They want a new building. They want to grow. They need more room to grow, but currently they don't have it. And they wanted to put the new building on the same campus as a local college, community college. And the parents were like throwing a fit because they're like, I don't want my high school student on the same campus as 18, 19, 20, you know, same idea.
Sure.
It's just like, you just don't want, that's just different stage of life.
It is.
You know, and so even if high schools are saying that they don't want that, like, shouldn't the church be that much more cautious about those age groups?
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Someone's going to be compromising. Like maybe it's kind of like, well, we all know this is the way it has to be, but it's never excellence. It's never thriving. It's never best case scenario. It's never full potential. It's compromise. It's always, when age groups are combined, I feel like it's always compromise somewhere.
Yeah.
And real quick, going back to the leadership team, you know, I had said that I really focused on my adult volunteers. And here's a reason why too, that I was talking to one of my interns about today at church. There was 3 of us working. So one of the services, we had like 25 kids at second service or something. And there were 3 leaders in the room. It was me, my guy director, and my intern. And her and I were talking, and I was saying, wow, like I'm thinking back in the day of when it was just me leading everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, not only was I running everything, like push play on the computer and then like, hey guys, welcome. And then blah, I said, but it was the relational weight I had to carry that made me so tired. I used to come home from church after Sunday services and just be like a zombie. And it wasn't necessarily because I was teaching announcements, games, like this and that, but it was like every kid who came in the room, I was taking the relational burden for of like making you feel welcome. Hi, how was your weekend? What's going on? Oh, you had your game. Hey, haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. Oh, do you need help checking in? Oh, hi, you're new. Why don't you fill this out? And I was doing all of that, being a team of one. And so going back to the focus on your adult leaders, the reason you can grow is because you are duplicated in your relational capacity. Everyone who comes in your room on a Sunday or a midweek program or whatever, what are they bottom line looking for? Relationship. You know, I talk about environment and worship and all this stuff, and all that stuff's important. But bottom line, what do my students want most is me. In fact, we just got back from camp, and one of my leaders had to tell the kids, like, stop saying her name. Like, I can help you. Can someone else help you? Because she's like, oh my gosh, everywhere you walk, Kristen. She's like, I heard your name said like 100 times a day. Like, how do you do it? And I was like, yeah, I need other people to step in and take some of that relational weight, because what do they want? They want my attention. They want my focus. They want my relationship. They want to tell me all the stories they like of them and their friends this weekend and what they did. And I was at junior lifeguards and how many miles I ran or swam or whatever. And they're just like, they want to tell you, which is great. But if you're one person, you're not going to, I mean, how could you possibly get to everyone?
Yeah.
So building this team gives you the resource to grow, not just like, oh, so people can do tasks, but so that people can engage with people. You need as many people available to engage with other people as possible. And that creates that healthy environment. And people know I can come and be seen and heard and known and listened to and all of that, because there's no way you can do that just you. It's tough. So like I said, the more leaders, the better. Like, you know, we had there's 25 of them, 3 of us today. And it felt perfect. It felt like great. I still talked to students. I played Foursquare. I played Mario Kart with them. I hung out and I felt filled, not depleted.
Yeah.
You know, it was great. So keep that in mind for the leader thing. And then just remember, you know, at the end of the day, look at your ministry, look at where you meet, and just ask yourself, is this a place where students can easily invite friends? Are we the kind of youth group where it's so easy to invite a friend? They're not going to come in with a bunch of insider language and insider things that like a visitor would be like, what the heck are you guys doing? But that someone could come and feel comfortable right off the bat. I just think sometimes we need to keep a visitor in mind when we like, our pastor does the littlest things where it's like, okay, turn to 1 Timothy. Don't just assume everyone knows where 1 Timothy is. Like, walk them through it, you know, make it so they know like, oh, it's not just like obvious. Everybody knows this, or little insider things. Like every youth group has traditions, but be very careful of like weird abbreviations that you're using that only someone who would be attending would know. Explain things as if you're explaining it to new people every single time so that they know, oh, there's other new people here too.
Right.
I'm not like the one random that everyone's like, oh, just for them, you know?
Not if you're other, you know, new people, it's explaining things to a point where it's like, oh, good, I'm glad they explained that because I had no idea, or I didn't want to have to ask.
Yeah. Who would, right? You know, a new person. So anyways, all this took me a lot of time. And my gift to you is that it doesn't have to take you a lot of time. Jeff and I, like, that has always been our heart for youth pastors of take what I've learned in 20 years and condense it down and just kind of hand it over so that your growth trajectory can be quicker, smoother, and easier. Like this, a little roadmap that somebody said, hey, I've been here. Let me write it in reverse for you. And you'll have a much smoother time. You won't be wearing a blindfold navigating through all of this. So we have the Youth Ministry Growth Accelerator course, and it's basically these little modules of all these different topics, from leaders to
a lot of almost everything you've talked about and more, I think. Yeah.
And it comes with a workbook so that you can actually be a student. Like if youth ministry were a course at your local college, that's kind of
something you actually had any interest in learning.
Yeah. That's what this feels like. Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure you go to growyouryouthministry.com and you can check out everything that it includes. And also what you didn't even mention was we do the monthly coaching calls, which is a great way to ask the questions that you have in youth ministries, certain things that maybe you're stuck on in your certain context. And we kind of talk through that as a group, which is really fun. So make sure you guys check that out. Again, it's growyouryouthministry.com. Right now, we're going to do our last giveaway for our 200th episode giveaway. This is the final one. And the winner today is going to be receiving a 1-year subscription to G Shade's Youth Ministry Curriculum.
Ooh, lucky winner.
Yeah. G Shade's Youth Ministry Curriculum, which is the Season 6 Base G Curriculum, and it is valued at $579. This is a year's worth of video messages, teaching manuscripts, small group guides, games, and graphics. everything that you could possibly want.
I want that.
This is gospel-centered youth ministry curriculum to help you and your students grow in their faith. So make sure you do check out gshades.org for more information. But the winner for the G-Shades curriculum is Mirab Joy Guillen. Congratulations! We will be in contact with you, and G-Shades will be in contact with you about how to get your season 6 curriculum. So congratulations. And
that's
thank
a good
you
prize.
yeah, it is. Thank you, G-Shades, for donating that to this giveaway. We really appreciate that. And we also appreciate all you watching and listening, and we will see you next time.
Today, we're talking all about how to give you the ultimate UV Nuvi noodle.
Welcome to the Ministry Coach Podcast, where every week we bring you, the front foot being,
Which foot?
leading with the foot.
Your best drama, best comedy, best quote, best wig.